All right, but I should give you some more scary stories or something because I did have a couple at
Nice.
least ghostly-ish tales, and so I feel like I should at least bring them up. And even though I could do. The problem is I could do this conversation all day, and then we would never get to them. But I got a couple for you, right?
Great.
So now the first one, the question you might have is, hey, should you even talk about ghost stories, right? Like, well, I don't have. There's no Bible answer. There's nowhere it says it's thou shalt not ghost story. Okay, but we should stay away from superstition. So I do agree with Titus in that. But Charles Spurgeon and the Sword and the Trowel put out an episode. He put out a magazine article on Christmas Eve and was basically like, "Hey, everyone loves a good ghost story once in a while. It's Christmas Eve, and let's have a ghost story." And to me, I think Christmas Eve is out of time for ghost stories. But I guess before Halloween was big, you did ghost stories on Christmas Eve. That's probably why the Christmas Carol has all those ghost stories. Okay, let's do it. And this is one of the ghost stories he published. He had a few. Most of them were kind of goofy. One of them was super fake, where like the whole town thought a ghost was in town, but it was actually just somebody's horse had gotten loose or something like that. And so they eventually realized the thing running through the graveyard was just a horse. And they were like, but wait, who's been ringing the bell? And it was like actually a guy traveling through town had just heard everyone else panicking. So he started ringing the bell. But there was one story that he had. It was basically an old minister had what traveling around England, had to go long distances by horseback. And he was an old kind of your classic traveling, maybe probably a Methodist, now that I think about it, traveling preacher. And this guy said he was traveling down the road one day on his horse and he noticed up ahead there was a man trying to be sneaky crossing a field, and but he didn't. The guy that he could see didn't realize that he could see him as well. And he looked at him and he said, "Oh snap! That is, I recognize him. He's this reaper. He's a traveling guy that I met yesterday. He was not super friendly, but he did get a good look at me. And he said he realized he was wearing like a nice watch that he'd had handed down to him from his great grandpa. And he said, okay, I see him he's hiding through the woods. He's actually walking with his reaper stick. I think he's about to attack me. He very well might kill me, and he's probably coming for my watch." Now, for me, I hear that story and I go, turn around, right?
Right.
Like, don't keep driving down the road. But he said, I know that if I turn back, I'm expected for a ministry appointment. I need to preach somewhere, and I don't have time to turn any other direction. I won't be able to make it. I'm already, it's already going to be close. So he said, I am just going to keep riding, and I'm going to trust that God is going to get me through this. And I would just say, turn around, miss the appointment. The guy's going to murder you. He just said he kept riding and he kept getting closer. And this guy was, very clearly on the way, getting closer on the road, looking like he was about to get him. And he didn't know what to do. And he's just praying, God, what, am I about to get killed by this guy? What is about to happen? When he said out of nowhere, he heard the sound of another horse. Another rider was now suddenly on the path with him. And he didn't even know where he came from. He said that was kind of amazing because you're way out in the middle of nowhere, and he hadn't heard this guy the entire time. He was like, "Oh God, this could be my miracle sin." And this rider basically dressed up in I don't remember. I think he said basically all black. He couldn't even really see his face; it was kind of shaded. Just pulls up next to him and is riding fast beside him. And he goes, "Oh, thank goodness you're here. There's actually a guy up ahead." And this rider just says nothing, and he's like, well, thank you. Let's ride together. And the rider just sticks with them. So they ride through. This Reaper guy sees now that there's two of them, and he can kind of see him backing away. There must have been some elevation or something. I don't know how he could see all this, but he sees the guy backs off, and they were going through this kind of shrubbery area where the guy was probably going to jump them. And as they pass through it, everything's safe. And he goes, "Oh, thank goodness. You are a blessing sent by God. This guy, I'm pretty sure I was about to be attacked, and I think God sent you to save me." And he says, the writer just says to him, in this very clear voice, "You said it yourself." And then he turned around like, "Oh, you actually speak." And the writer was gone. And he's like, "Wait, whoa, what just happened? Where did he go?" He gets to his appointment. He preaches. That's the end of the story. I was like, that's a pretty cool story. I like that story. And I like that it's got the Charles Spurgeon endorsement. Now, I have to imagine that sounds like an angel, personally speaking, not a ghost. But he put it under his ghost stories because what else do you label it? But I thought that was a pretty cool one.
But under the cloak, he's got the revolving eyes, and we know what real angels look like. So yes, yeah.
Now, of course, he does sound more like a Nazgul, from Lord of the Rings, based it all black, riding beside. But let's just go with it.
Well, even God used the destroyer to do His will, and as Martin Luther said, even the devil is God's devil. So yes,
true.